The Tim Heale Podcasts. Ordinary people's extraordinary stories.
So I'm just going to bring my next guest in. This is other Cheryl. So Cheryl, you're in the room.
Hello. I'm Cheryl Wolf, and I'm really here to support. And my business is in wellness, and that means your body, your mind, and your soul. And so I think that supporting people going through a hard time, and what are the things that you can do for yourself when you're in that process. And I think that it's already been said, but I really want to emphasize whatever it is that you feel isn't wrong. Just allow yourself to feel those feelings. And I think the way we look for the grieving process to have a time, and we all do it in a different time. And the waves of emotions come up at different times. And what can we do? But I think just like, being with someone and not wanting to fix it, but the human in us, we want to help and we want to fix and we want to comfort that person in that process. But the best thing we can do, as we've been told, is to just be there with them and not disappear after a month, after a few months, because that process is still going on. So what are the things, making sure that you're getting some sleep, making sure that you're getting your rest, making sure you're getting some play. And I think that, supporting yourself and doing the things for your health to support you in that process, because it's very tiring.
Definitely. And I think that's the one of the keys to take away. It takes a long time for anybody and everybody to get over losing a loved one. And the key there is that it's not just 2 or 3 months, it's 2 or 3 years, 4 or 5, 10 years, just to check in every so often, just to make sure they're okay. And particularly in the early stages, that they're trying to get the rest, they're trying to eat regularly, and just looking after themselves after a loss. It's so easy to just let yourself go, or just can't be bothered that particular day. You have days where you just don't want to get out of bed. You've had a sleepless night, and I think that's the time that you need to pick yourself up and set yourself a routine. I think that's the key to take it. Have a routine. Make sure you get up in the morning, do your ablutions, and then start the day, and remember the person that you've lost with affection, and celebrate the life that you've had with them, and that's a good way to move forward.
Yes, I agree. I think that the celebrating of their life, celebrating that they were a gift in your life, and it's hard to not focus on the end, but focus on the gift that they brought and the things that they brought into your life. And how much better, So I think a lot of times it is we are grateful for that relationship and what it brought to our life and how it lifted us up. But yeah, it's not as simple. There's not a cut and dry. There's not follow this and everything will be better. It is, listening to your body, listening, and then having those friends and those family members that help you and comfort you and support you through the process and let you talk and let you grieve in the way that you need to grieve, because there isn't a right or wrong.
No, definitely not. So thanks, Cheryl.
You're welcome.
What I'm going to do, I'll drop you down and I'm going to play the next video clip. To turn the next part of the story. So make sure we get the right clip. I'm doing it all by myself tonight. But there you go. If it goes wrong, blame me. I'm in charge. So this is the next part of the story from Marie.
I think the most important part that happened next for me was because obviously, as you can imagine, at first there was a huge whirlwind, and I felt that I went into something that I call functioning mode. You know, it was like ticking through the list. What's the next step? You know, like telling his parents, flying to Perth, identifying his body, coming back home, picking up the pieces. There were so many steps, and I felt like the entire time I was in functioning mode, organizing the funeral. And I have to say, after the funeral, I think that was a very pivotal point for me. I had a nervous breakdown. And as negative as that might sound for a lot of people, for me, it was like a breaking down, breaking open to then really change the way I approached everything. And till this day, I know that this was actually the seed that planted everything for what was to come. So basically, when I had my nervous breakdown, I knew it was time for me to see somebody as well. I was so in organizing mode and looking after everything that had to be done and after everybody else, and in particular after my boys. And then when everything was over, I'm talking about, you know, the organizing the funeral, etc., there was this breakdown moment, and I thought, okay, this is my moment. I need to do something for myself as well. I need to organize somebody for myself. I found a counselor. I talked to her. It was absolutely life-saving for me, or I shouldn't really say life-saving. It kind of implies that my life was a danger, which it wasn't. My mindset was very set on, I need to create a happy life for the boys. And I was lucky enough that Rob and I had a couple of conversations about what would you do if, you know? And both of us were very adamant about, if something was to happen to me, I would want you to take the boys and create the happiest life possible. And Tim, I have to say, in theory, that sounds amazing, but then when you deal with it in reality, it's very, very different. Yet what happened was this became my North Star, my lighthouse, so to say. This was my direction. Everything I did was, will that create a happier life for the boys? Me going to counseling absolutely did that help with creating a happy life for myself and the boys. And with my background in mindset coaching, it was like a fast forward movement every time I went to a counseling session, because my mind and my heart was wide open to receiving help, if that makes sense. So I remember one day saying to Emily, my counselor, how I felt there was so much expectation from society, how you're supposed to be with grief, how you're supposed to deal with situations like that, and how long you're supposed to grieve, and how all these expectations. And she looked at me so calmly and said, so what does grief mean to you, Marie? And that moment was, I said, empowerment. I had no idea where that word came from. It just came to me. The moment she asked me that, I said empowerment. And I can only put it back to the fact that when Rob died, I literally felt like he was pouring all his strength into me. I felt like I was guided every step of the way. It was like the path was just presenting itself to me. And I know that all sounds a lot more positive than I actually felt at the time, but in hindsight, this is what I saw. And the moment I said that to her, I said, you know, I think I need to write a book about this. I had all these ideas on how I was dealing with grief so differently to most people, how my focus was on creating a happy life, because I felt like I didn't need support in grief. The sadness, the grief, that happened automatically anyway. I didn't need support in that. Nobody needed to support me in how to feel even sadder. I needed support in how I could feel happier. So for me, it was that realization how sadness and happiness is coexisting, in particular in grief. You know, so many people try to push away the happiness and feel like there's no space for it and I'm not allowed to be happy. But according to who? If I asked Rob, he would want nothing else but that for me, you know. So I realized I had to choose a different path to everyone else. And by writing about it, I was also sharing our story. It's a bit of a love legacy for Rob, if that makes sense. What I didn't expect was that our story didn't just become an Amazon #1 bestseller, it ranked in the top 100 of Australia. And this is what made me realize that I've got something that the world needs. So I traveled around the world with the boys for 2 months to create happiness, to create new happy memories, to get some time away from all these expectations and how people looked at us and labeled us. And I didn't want that. I needed to get away. And it was the best decision ever. The boys and I still talk about this journey around the world. And when I came back home, I thought this is so much more than just a book, and I went on and created the movement, Loving Life After Loss. So there was this whole huge domino effect that happened from Rob's passing, and I'm absolutely certain, completely respecting that everybody's got different beliefs, that Rob guided me along the way for every single step. So that's in a nutshell what happened after Rob. Yeah.
That's amazing. And I guess for your point of view, that guiding light that drove you forward, to deal with it, and having had the conversation with Rob beforehand, that he would want you to carry on the best life you can, to live the happiest life.
Yeah.
Then had it been the other way around, he would have done exactly the same, I guess. Because
love is really simple. Love just wants you to be happy. And that's what we wanted for each other. We would want the other person to be happy despite us being with them or not, if that makes sense. We were just really concerned about the boys. We're like, if something was ever to happen to us, we need to create happiness for the boys and ourselves. We really wanted that for each other.
That's awesome. Well, there you go. There's part 2 of the story. Amazing lady. I mean, how she came through that. Imagine that happening. Your husband's thousands of miles away. You had the connection to find out, and he actually died in the shower. So he had an aneurysm. But the rest of her story is moving forward and positive, and how she's gone with that. You can find some of the descriptions, I think, in the descriptions box. I think it's there I think it's in YouTube. Don't know. I'll put it there. It's all a mystery to me. So that's that. Right, we're about 45 in. Let's just give the folks at home that have come in a little bit later, just to let them know that we're coming live from the Heale Studios, the Heale Manor Studios. This is part of a 2-part show. Next week we're carrying on this bereavement special. Hopefully this time next week the Queen would have been buried and at Windsor, and we can carry on this message about talking about death and bereavement, and hopefully giving people some help and solace along the way, that you can get through it, and it just takes a little bit of time, and that's what we're trying to do. And particularly for people that want to help somebody that's lost somebody, giving them some tools in the box so they can help. The following week, the 29th of September, got a Veterans Mental Health Special, and we're going to focus in on suicide. And I'm hoping I've got a minister, a parliamentary minister, a member of parliament. Get it right. Dyslexia kicking in again. Don't get dyslexia. It's hard work. So we're working on it. I'm in touch with him and his team. So hopefully we'll have him on the show for a bit, or the whole show, which would be good. And I've got a few other veterans coming in to talk about their issues. The following week is our postponed archaeological special on the 6th. We all know what happened last week. We pulled the show at the 29th, or the 11th hour, 59 minutes. And yeah, that was that week. The following week is going to be another special. I'm working on. I've got two projects that I'm working on at the moment to get some fascinating stuff in, and if I can pull it off, you guys are going to benefit. So keep the old Thursdays in your diaries, because you know we go live every Thursday at 7 p.m. British summer time, and by then it's heading towards GMT again. So we're going to fall back an hour at the end of October. Talking about another one in October. At the moment, if I can't pull off a special, we're going to have another one of these open forum Q&As. Look what happened the last one. That was fun, wasn't it? So, but we'll keep it fun anyway. So, without too much further ado, I'm going to bring in my best mate's wife to tell her story. So, if you're ready, Kath. Oh, you're in the room.
Hello.
How you doing?
Yeah, okay. Bit of an emotional day today, but we're okay, I think.
Yeah, do you want to tell us about it?
What we've done today, or from the beginning?
What you want to share? How's
Okay,
that?
well, so today we've been scattering Stephen's ashes. So we went off to the crematorium. Very nice lady booked us round, and actually we were having a bit of laugh, and it was all quite jovial right up until the very end, and it wasn't very jovial because I had a bit of a moment. And you know, we took some flowers, and we also put some on my granddad's grave, and you know, we laid some flowers where we scattered the ashes. So it sort of feels a bit like it's the full stop at the end of that sentence now, because that part of things are over. So if you go back, it will be eight weeks ago, on the hottest day of the year, Stephen decided he was going to go up and clean the solar panels on the roof. It was nothing to do with the weather, and he's been up there 101 times. I can't tell you how many times. But on this particular day, he slipped and he fell from the roof to the floor. But on the way down, he hit his head, and he was unconscious before he hit the ground. So he had no way of protecting himself from the fall. So he actually suffered catastrophic injuries. There was an off-duty ambulance over the road who literally was here within minutes before I even got to the door, because I had COVID, so I hadn't been outside with anybody, because 10 minutes before he'd been playing with the grandkids in the swimming pool. And everybody was absolutely amazing. They started working on him straight away. They called another ambulance. They called the paramedics. They called the air ambulance. They spent 45 minutes trying to revive him. They tried absolutely everything. But unfortunately, the injuries were too severe. And this was one accident of many he's always had that he didn't walk away from. Because you know how accident prone he was. But obviously, I think that probably gave him a little bit of a feeling of invincibility, because whenever he had an accident, he might walk away with the end of his finger missing, or a broken nose, or stitches, but he still always walked away from it. But of course, this particular day, he couldn't. So, and that was 8 weeks ago, so it's all still quite new and raw for us, really.
Yeah. And I guess you guys are still getting quite a lot of support from friends and neighbours and stuff.
Yeah, we are. But no one's bringing us food. Just saying. No, I've had flowers again this week. You know, people have been amazing. The people at work text me literally every day, even if it's just a little heart or how are you or whatever. My best friend's been brilliant. The family are all brilliant. You know, we're very, very lucky. We have all that support. My doctors have been really quick off the block and are sending me for counselling for the next 10 weeks. I've just got to wait to hear for the start date. So, you know, because of the circumstances, they felt I needed it. So, you know, I'm going for that and just see how it goes.
Well, it's we've got a counsellor in the room, actually.
Oh.
So, do you want a quick chat with the counsellor?
Oh.
So, young Cheryl, come and have a chat.
Hello.
Hello, how are
Hi.
you?
Yeah,
It's been a difficult day for you, I understand.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was 3:30 this afternoon, so of course we've sat around all day waiting to go and do it. But do you know what? It wasn't awful. It was all tastefully done, and we were all having a bit of a laugh about things. And then I just had a bit of a moment. But I suppose some things just get a bit overwhelming, don't they?
Yeah, that's the way grief works. It just sort of washes over you in waves, and you never really know when it's going to hit. But I think it's wonderful to hear that you have been able to, be with your family, and you've been able to laugh and smile today, because it's also important to give yourself those breaks from grief. That's part of our psychological defense mechanism, and that is actually, we need that. There's no one in the world who can grieve 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Our psyche just can't do it. And so it's important to, hunt for the good stuff in life, even in the midst of grief, and to allow yourself to enjoy those little moments of having a laugh with your family, or your grown children, or your grandchildren, or whoever is around you.
Well, I mean, my family don't seem to want to leave me on my own ever at the moment. So, that's been quite good.
That is good.
So you're not getting any time to yourself then?
No, well, Stephanie and Anna are away this weekend, but LJ's coming for a sleepover. So he's only 5. He'll keep me busy all weekend, won't he?
Yeah.
That's lovely to hear.
Yeah. And then we're all getting together on Monday to all watch the funeral together. Because, I've got friends who actually have lost their husband a couple of years ago, who actually is still suffering. And what seems to have happened now is, and they're also trying to support me, but it seems to have brought back everything that happened to them. And they're now like going through it all for a second time, and they're having trouble watching the things on the television about the Queen, because it's bringing all the grief and everything back. I think we're all feeding off one another's grief as far as the Queen goes, which is sort of reigniting when people have suffered themselves. It's like reigniting that all over again, and it's making things a bit difficult for people, I think.
Yeah, I can kind of relate to that, and that's why I've kind of turned what's the national mourning that we're suffering at the moment with the loss of the Queen, turning around to celebrate her life. I mean, she was on the throne for 70 years.
Yeah,
the
amazing.
amount of work that lady did, and the amount of good that she's done for the country, and the hard times that she'd gone through with her life, and some of the amazing things that she's done. And I think that's what we should concentrate on, rather than mourning the loss. And I think we should also celebrate having a king for the first time in over 70 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite difficult to, when you sing the national anthem, to remember to say king rather than queen. I mean, I've only ever sung God Save the Queen, and now I'm singing God Save the King.
Well, actually, Anne was saying the other day at Duxford, that would have been the last time we ever sung that.
Yeah.
Because obviously now she's gone and we'll never do it again, will we?
Not at Duxford, anyway.
Well, no. Well, not anywhere.
Yeah, not anywhere.
But I mean, Stephen said about his funeral all along, it should be a celebration of life, and we all shouldn't sit there and be miserable. And I think anybody who went to the funeral realised it wasn't the normal kind of funeral, because we weren't going to do that. We followed his instructions, and it was, it was reflective of Stephen, wasn't it?
It was, and we did shed a few tears, but I mean,
but we also had we had a laugh or two as well, didn't we?
Oh, we did. Yeah, we did bring some fun into it, and
we did.
And then afterwards for the wake, people were able to relax then and properly enjoy his life. and talk about him. And we had many a good story, many a good yarn told.
I've heard your podcast, yeah.
Yes.
But you know, the nice thing about those podcasts is, you know, LJ's only 5. He will remember him, but maybe not much. Callum is too young because he's only not even 18 months, so he won't remember him at all. But you know what? Anytime they can go to those podcasts and they can hear him talking and laughing with you, you know, and well, telling all the things he used to get up to, which is quite amusing, and they will have a sense of who he was.
And of course, there's the live streams that he was on.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
He was my wingman on the live stream, so that's good. Right,
That's the beauty
I'm
of
just
video.
going to bring in the other 2 guests, and then we can have a bit of a chat.
Great.
So, Scott, you're back in the room.
Good to see you again. Hi, Catherine.
Cheryl.
Hi.
Cheryl, you're in the room.
All right. 2 Cheryls.
2 Cheryls.
Yes.
Can't beat it. 2 Cheryls. I've got a brace of Cheryls. How many other shows can say that they've got a brace of Cheryls?
So I was thinking, there's been quite a bit of research on grief and bereavement the past years, and one of the things that has come up is something called oscillation theory, where we when we are in grief, we oscillate between grieving and approaching the grief as far as allowing ourselves to, you know, cry and be sad and really feel the loss, but then oscillating between taking a break from those acute grief feelings and allowing ourselves to laugh and have a good time and to enjoy the good things in life and the good memories that we have of that person. And I think it's important to have both. And when you were speaking about your husband's funeral and talking about how you did both, you know, you told funny stories, you laughed, and you did cry, and both are equally important.
Yeah. I think you just sort of carry on as normal, and then there be that thing that just comes from wherever. I mean, it could be for anything. You could just think of something, or go somewhere, or do something, or something comes on the telly, and it just pulls you back and makes you realise that they're not here, and that's you know, probably when you have your moment.
Right.
But you know, I decided from the beginning, if I was upset and I wanted to cry, I was going to do it, and if I wanted to sob, I was going to do it, because I didn't know another way of coping other than doing that. So I think people have got used to me having my moments.
Yeah, and that's just a perfectly normal and healthy way of dealing with grief.
Yeah, I think we're probably all different, but I don't think I'd have done very well at being stoic and making out that everything was all right. I think everybody would have found me very strange if they thought I thought everything was okay.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have been a Queen Victoria then?
No, I don't think.
She did it for quite a while.
The Tim Heale Podcasts. Ordinary people's extraordinary stories.